Gone are the days when Christianity is tagged with poverty. Church rulers were regarded as the poor among the poorest, and pastors are known with rags and miserable lifestyle because of the way they wallow in poverty. The new dispensation has generated caucus for richest pastors worth millions of dollars, operating a multinational organization, driving expensive cars, flying first class, owning personal private jets, and building a multi-million-dollar cathedral of worship globally. The new century pastors were not known only to be rich in ways, but also in money. Truth to be told, churches are the new evolutionary industry among the Fortune 500 industries by Forbes 2022 rating because of the position they occupy in the community. Because millions of foreign currencies are being raised from their services, and most of these revenues are untaxed and are credited to the visionary. Although there are different pastors with diverse uncensored inspirational messages, making it practically impossible to identify the good from the bad. But there are no procedural means of screening them, whereby made a necessity for worshippers not to be a prey in the quest for being under a shepherd. The main reason why we need to talk about the Forbes richest pastors in the world and also highlight details about them. This article is aimed at educating you about the top 10 richest pastors in the world according to Forbes 2022. We will update you soon about the top 10 richest pastors in the world. Check out the list of top 10 richest pastors in the world after this time out. My name is Kelly Everest.
My name is Bolanle Oluchi, and you're watching The Pastor.
The Pastor.
The Pastors. This is a show that brings you up close and personal with pastors. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is The Pastors. Alright, welcome back to the show. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is 15 Minutes with the Pastors. Now, starting from pastor number 10. Pastor number 10 is Pastor Joseph Prince, the only Singapore pastor on the Forbes 2022 list. Joseph Prince tops with a net worth of about $5 million as the senior pastor of the New Creation Church, which is the largest congregation in Singapore, the Asian continent, running a TV program named Destined to Reign, where this is our pastor number 10, Pastor Joseph Prince. Now, moving on to pastor number 9. Pastor number 9 is Prophet T.B. Joshua, the controversial pastor and the visionary of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, SCAN, located in Lagos, Nigeria. Prophet Temitope Balogun Joshua makes the list of the Forbes 2022 richest pastors in the world with a net worth of $10 million, making the 4th richest pastor in Nigeria and the 9th in the global scene. Now, moving on to pastor number 8. Pastor number 8 is Pastor Ben Hinn, the world-renowned evangelist and the prolific author. Evangelist Ben Hinn is rich to be noticed by Forbes to make it his list for 2022 richest pastors in the world. Being on the 8th position, the Jew-American evangelist is the convener of Orlando Christian Center, formed in 1983, was born on the 3rd of December 1952 with a net worth of about $25 million, where that is pastor number 8, Pastor Ben Hinn. He worth $25 million. All right, moving on to pastor number 7. Pastor number 7 is Pastor Kenneth Copeland, the founder of Kenneth Copeland Ministry, the owner of a private jet, mansion, real estate, properties, and other expensive gadgets. Kenneth Mas Copeland is the 7th on the Forbes 2022 richest pastors in the world, with a net worth of about $25 million. That is pastor number 7, Pastor Kenneth Copeland. He worth $25 million. Now, moving on to pastor number 6. Pastor number 6 is Pastor Creflo Dollar. Pastor Creflo Dollar of the World Changers Church International, a non-denominational church located in Flutin, Georgia, United States, is the 6th richest pastor in the world, according to Forbes 2022 listing of richest pastor in the world with a net worth of about $27 million. That is pastor number 6, Pastor Creflo Dollar. He worth $27 million. Now, moving on to pastor number 5. Pastor number 5, after this time out.
akụkọ, ị ga-enye nkwa, ị ga-eme nkwa. Oh, nobody go do me like you. 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 Nobody go do. You are the doer of wonders. 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 You are the doer. You are the doer. You are the doer. Nobody go do me like you. 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 I never see anyone like you, Baba. Nobody go do me the way you dey do me, Baba. You have done what no man can do. You gave your life in exchange for me to live again. Ebube dike, isi m naba nụ n'ikpe amaghị m. Odogwu n'agha, ichileze n'igwe. Odogwu n'agha, ichileze n'elu ụwa. Odogwu n'agha, ichile ebighị ebi. Onye chiri agbanwe agbanwe, onye ahụ chiri eze chi anwụ anwụ. Papa ichiri eze chi anwụ anwụ, ọkwa gị chiri eze chi anwụ anwụ. Ezi ichiri eze chi anwụ anwụ, ichiri agbanwe agbanwe. Ah, ị ga-eme ngwa, onye ga-anụ, onye ga-eme ihe ọ na-eme, onye ga-enye n'ụmụ, ị ghara ịkọ m n'uwe. Aha, onye ga-enye m ghara ịkọ n'ụwa niile akụkọ lelelele. Nobody go do me like you. 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 You are the doer of wonders. You are the doer of wonders. Jesus, doer of wonders. Jesus, doer of wonders. You are the doer. You are the doer. You are the doer. Nobody go do me like you. Nobody go do me like you. Nobody go do me like you. Nobody go do me as you do. Nobody go do.
My name is Bolanle Oluchi, and you're watching The Pastor.
The pastor.
Pastors. This is a show that brings you up close and personal with pastors. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is The Pastors. Alright, welcome back to the show. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is 15 Minutes with Pastors. Now, moving on to pastor number 5. Pastor number 5 is Pastor Enoch Adeboye. That GO is undisputable, the 5th richest pastor in the world with a net worth of about $39 million in the Forbes 2022 listing of the richest pastors in the world. Pastor Adeboye was ordained as the pastor as the general overseer in 1981 by the founder and the presiding pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, RCCG, Pa Akindayomi, after he was first confirmed as pastor in 1977. Where that is our pastor number 5, Pastor Enoch Adeboye. He worth $39 million. All right, now moving on to pastor number 4. Pastor number 4 is Pastor Joel Osteen. Although there is a discord between what the actual worth of the televangelist Pastor Joel Scott Austin is, we believe it can be less than $40 million or at most $60 million. We concluded at the former using the least expected scenario factor. Nevertheless, Pastor Joel Osteen makes the list of Forbes 2022 richest pastors in the world, being the 4th richest pastors in the world. Now moving on to pastor number 3. Pastor number 3 is Pastor Chris Oyahilome. The Pastor Chris of Christ Embassy makes the Forbes 2022 list of richest pastors in the world, being the 3rd richest pastor in the world with a net worth of about $50 million to secure his 3rd position of the richest pastors on earth. Pastor Chris is the senior pastor and the convener of Believers Love World International, NICT Christ Embassy, where that is pastor number 3, Pastor Chris Oyahilome. He worth $50 million. Now moving on to pastor number 2. Pastor number 2 is Bishop T.D. Jakes. The Bishop of the Potter's House is incredible, the richest pastor in the United States and the 2nd richest pastor in the world with a net worth of about $147 million. Bishop Thomas Dexter Jakes, born on the 9th of June 1957, with a multifaceted and multi-denominational personality, being a clergyman and also an author, a filmmaker, an author and a singer, where his mega church has a capacity of 30,000 worshippers per service. Where this our pastor number 2, Bishop D.D. Jakes, he worth $147 million. Now moving on to pastor number 1. Pastor number 1, after this time out.
Your name be praised, Emmanuel, your name be praised. When we come in your name, you are right within our midst, Emmanuel. Your name be praised. You are God with us, and the God who is in us, Emmanuel. Your name we praise, Emmanuel. Your name, my God, Emmanuel. We cry, Emmanuel. Your name be praised. Your name be praised.
God with us and God in us. You deserve the highest praise, Emmanuel. I praise your name, the Redeemer of my soul, and you're the keeper of my heart. Oh, Emmanuel.
My name is Bolanle Oluchi, and you're watching The Pastor.
The pastors. This is a show that brings you up close and personal with pastors. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is The Pastors. Alright, welcome back to the show. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is 15 Minutes with the Pastors. Now, moving on to pastor number 1. Pastor number 1 is Bishop David Oyedepo. Undisputedly, Papa Oyedepo, as popularly nicknamed, is the richest pastor in the world with a net worth of about $200 million. He is the founder and the presiding bishop of Living Faith Church worldwide, popularly known as Winners Chapel International, with a leading congregational member in the African continent, with the church headquarters located in Ota, Ogun State, where this is our pastor of the week, Bishop David Oyedepo. We now bring you some messages from our pastor of the week to wrap up the show. When we come back, we'll be saying goodbye. See you after this time out.
It's time to fly. I don't take this opportunity lightly. I want to thank God for the grace made available to me to be part of this great convention. Drawing from the theme, I'll be speaking on getting on board your flight above the shadows. Getting on board your flight above the shadows. I'm taking my text from Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 9 to 12, or by extension to 14. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the Lord of his inheritance. He found him in the desert land and in the waste howling wilderness. He led him about. He instructed him. He kept him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirred up our nest, fluttered over our young, spread it above our wings, taketh them, beareth them on our wings, so the Lord alone did lead him, and there was no strange God with him. 13, he made him to ride on the high places of the earth, that he might eat the increase of the field, and he made him to suck honey out of the rock, and oil out of the flinting rock, butter of kine and milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the fat of kidneys, of wheat, and thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. This scripture paints the picture of every child of God as a spiritual eagle meant for the skies. Every child of God is redeemed as spiritual eagle. Every child of God is a seed of Abraham. And the Bible said Jacob is the Lord of his inheritance. And Jacob means Israel. No matter where we are found, redemption entitles us for a flight into the high place of life. Every child of God is redeemed as spiritual eagle after the order of Christ. Moses was sent as God's eagle to bear God's people out of Egypt into their promised land. In Exodus,
My name is Bolanle Oluchi, and you're watching The Pastor.
The pastor.
Pastors. This is a show that brings you up close and personal with pastors. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is The Pastors. Alright, welcome back to the show. I'm still your host, Kelly Everest, and this is 15 Minutes with the Pastors. Hope you did enjoy that wonderful message from our Pastor of the Week, Bishop David Oyendeko, where this is all we have for you for this week edition. Thank you for investing your time with us. Thank you for being there. See you next week with another exciting edition. See you, and bye for now.